It was the most expensive weapons project of the entire war. More expensive than the atomic bomb. The B-29 Superfortress was the most technologically advanced aircraft ever built. And it carried the weapons that ended civilization's deadliest conflict. This is the story of B-29 Superfortress. A weapon that changed the face of war. The year is 1944 to 1945. The world is at war. And someone has just built something terrifying. The most advanced aircraft of WW2 cost more to develop than the atomic bomb. It could fly higher and farther than anything else in the sky. And it ended the war with 2 bombs. What comes next will revolutionize warfare forever. The B-29 was revolutionary. Pressurized crew compartments, remote-controlled gun turrets, computerized fire control. Nothing like it had ever existed. Development cost $3 billion in 1940s money. More than the Manhattan Project. Boeing nearly went bankrupt building it. The first B-29s were deployed to India and China in 1944. Logistics were a nightmare. Every gallon of fuel had to be flown over the Himalayas. Engine fires were the B-29's worst enemy. The Wright R-3350 engines overheated constantly. More B-29s were lost to engine fires than to enemy action. General Curtis LeMay changed everything. He ordered the B-29s to fly at low altitude at night, stripped of guns, loaded with incendiary bombs. On March 9, 1945, 334 B-29s attacked Tokyo with incendiaries. The resulting firestorm killed approximately 100,000 people in a single night. The firebombing campaign destroyed 67 Japanese cities. Millions were homeless. Japan's industrial capacity was gutted. B-29s also dropped mines in Japanese harbors. Operation Starvation cut Japan's shipping by 75%. Japanese fighters struggled to reach B-29s at 30,000 feet. The thin air made interception extremely difficult. But when B-29s flew low at night, the danger was from flak and searchlights. Many crews were terrified of the low-level missions. Colonel Paul Tibbets was chosen to command the 509th Composite Group. His mission was top secret: deliver the atomic bomb. On August 6, 1945, Tibbets' B-29 Enola Gay dropped Little Boy on Hiroshima. 80,000 people died instantly. 3 days later, Boxcar dropped Fat Man on Nagasaki. Another 40,000 dead. Japan surrendered on August 15. The B-29 continued to serve in Korea and as the first nuclear deterrent. It was the beginning of strategic air power. The B-29 program proved that technology could end wars. For better or worse, it opened the nuclear age. The B-29 destroyed 67 Japanese cities, dropped both atomic bombs, and ended World War II. It was the most advanced and expensive aircraft of the war. Soldiers on both sides had to adapt. The old way of fighting was dead. The enemy scrambled to develop countermeasures. But they were already behind. Production ramped up. Factories worked day and night to build more. By the end of the war, this weapon had fundamentally altered the battlefield. The B-29 opened the nuclear age and proved that strategic air power could force surrender without invasion. It remains the only aircraft to have used nuclear weapons in combat. The men who operated it knew its power. And they knew its cost. After the war, this technology continued to evolve. Its influence can still be seen today. Museums around the world preserve these machines. Silent reminders of their deadly efficiency. Collectors and historians study every detail. Every rivet, every mechanism tells a story. The soldiers who faced it called it many things. But they all agreed on one thing. It was terrifying. This was B-29 Superfortress. And it changed everything. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today.